This episode is powered by OutPost Roasters, small batch, high quality coffee with soul. OutPost Roasters in Johnson City specializes in freshly roasted, small batch, ethically sourced, fair trade local coffee. That's what sets them apart from the big guys. They work directly with small farms and co ops to ensure responsible practices and rich, balanced flavor in every single cup. Whether it's early mornings or late nights, their 12-ounce bags deliver bold, smooth coffee at a totally fair price. Head to outpostroastersjc.com to explore their blends and single origins. Outpost Roasters, coffee that's definitely worth waking up for.
All right, one of those.
Yeah.
And so he's got some interesting stories too. So it's been fun to just have people on. And then when we asked you, we were like, oh my gosh, we should ask Jeff. And I texted Kelly at first.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Kelly, Jeff doesn't really know us that well. Besides like the first time we met you, which is a hilarious story. And we have to which is you might not even remember, or maybe you do, and you're just scarred from Brian and our craziness.
All I remember about the first time meeting you guys is I knew you guys were from the Northeast. You're visiting, and I remember Abram and Kaylee were leading worship, and it was like a throwback to the late '90s. And I was like, they're never going to come back. They're going to be like, this church is still doing the songs of like our youth group days. That's what I remember about it.
Well, and so I texted Kelly and I was like, Kelly, do you think Jeff would like come and sit down and like talk with us so we can like get to know him more and like hear his story and stuff like that? Because we just started this podcast. She was like, I don't know, man, just ask him. And I was like, okay. So then we emailed you, and then you had emailed us back, and we were like, whoa, Jeff emailed us back. He said yes. And so it was just so funny because we were like, this is just so cool to be able to sit down and just talk with you like candidly. But so that story, because we talk about it all the time. Because one, we were so embarrassed. So you weren't speaking that day.
Was I not speaking? I just remember Abram and Kaylee were leading worship, and it was like
yeah, it was December. Yeah, it was close to
You guys were
Christmas.
sitting on the non-window side, the back wall.
Yep, we were just hanging out over there. The boys were upstairs, which is it was always hard for us when we would first go to a new church because the boys really like cling to us.
Yeah.
And so for them to like feel comfortable to go to a children's church, we were like, okay. So then we take like that 45 minutes and we're just like, it's quiet. What do we do with ourselves? And then you like walk past us and introduce yourself and you're like, hey. And then Brian and I just like unloaded all of our church pain that we've experienced over the past decade or two, like onto you we like word vomited in a matter of like 30 seconds. And you literally were just like, okay, cool guys. If you, I think he said, if you need help finding a church, let me know. Or if this is the place, that's cool. All right. You know, it was just like, and then Brian was like, oh my gosh, we just like came at him like a freight train. And I was like, oh, we totally stinking did. Well, and so it was just really funny. So we actually joke about it to this day because we're like, oh my gosh, Jeff probably looks at us and he's like, those stinking crazy people.
Yeah, not at all. So I think, so I like legitimately, I tell people all the time, like, look, what God wants to do in Johnson City is too big for any one church to contain. It's like I find joy in helping people find like the right church. And we just did a membership class, and I was like, look, my goal is not to get you at Redeemer, it's to get you to a church that you can thrive in. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, well, whether it's here or there, you guys looking for a church, like I'd love to help you find the right place. So
the 90s music did not turn me off because both of my parents were music ministers.
Okay.
And so I grew up in music ministry.
Yeah.
And so like the Hosanna Integrity, like all the really old 90s super fun songs.
Yeah.
Like that was Larnell Harris, Sandy Patty.
like with the ovation guitars, the rounded back, you know.
Yeah. The good old days. Yeah, where all the songs sound the same. But yeah, so that's really funny. So that didn't bother me that it was those 90s.
Well, no, not scarred, so don't worry.
Okay, good. There we go, Brian. Brian's like, you have to share that story.
Yeah, appreciate that.
But, so tell us a little bit. Oh, well, actually, you know what? Why don't you introduce yourself just so that people know? I mean, we just kind of started in there, but.
All right, so we've been recording.
Yeah.
All right, we're in.
Yeah.
So Jeff Martin, lead pastor at Redeemer Community Church, and I guess that's who I am. So
In a nutshell.
the brief, husband to Lucy, the father to Ruthie, Whit, and Bentley.
How old are they?
So Ruthie is 14, Whit, our son, and people are like, I guess we had Ruthie, people are like, that's a girl. When I say Whit, people are like, oh, how old is she? It's a he. He's 12, and then Bentley, a girl. And people are like, how old is he? I'm like, oh, that's a girl. Bentley is 10. So
Wow, all double digits.
they're all 2 years apart. It's super easy because I'm like,
Okay.
they're all like in September, October. So just every that time
Bam,
of year,
bam.
we just know they just move it up 2 years. So,
Well, that's, I can't, double digits is, it's a long way away for us, but it's not. It feels like it is, but.
We just went to high school orientation for our 14-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
And that's kind of crazy.
14?
Like, so she's in 8th grade, and I'm like, wow. Like I was like, she's gonna go to high school in 4 years. She'll be out.
Yeah.
And so she signed up for this track where they can focus on certain things in their senior year. They do dual enrollment, but they can come out of high school as LPNs. And they're like, hey, you come out of high school as a nurse and make $55,000 a year. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like,
huh?
I was like, can I do this?
Yeah. What are these choices?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's really cool.
But it's crazy to think through that how fast that goes, and like I'll be teaching her to drive next year and all that stuff.
Well, does your son? Well, actually, does any of your kids show any interest in flying?
No.
Okay. So I was going to say, we just found out about this cool program that in the state of Tennessee, if anyone's interested in being a pilot, and I think they're the age of 12.
Yeah.
That the state will pay for either half or all of your schooling, and then you can get licensed at 16 to be a pilot, and then they'll pay for like instrument training and like other stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So, but I was going to say,
yeah.
But no pilots. All right, never mind. Take that off the table.
So.
But you're not originally from here either, right?
No. So so kind of if we do a deep dive, my parents are from the middle of nowhere, Eastern Kentucky, and people are like, where? I'm like, the farthest point from nowhere you can get, pretty much. Coal mining towns. Really, there's no hope in that part of the country. So it's a sad. Appalachia is a sad, and they call it Appalachia up there. But so basically, my parents their goal was always to get out. So my dad gets into goes to college. His goal is to be a lawyer, and so he's getting a political science major, planning on going to law school. His senior year, basically, his number comes up for the draft for Vietnam, and decides, all right, so I'm going to get drafted. I can either go into the Army and be on the ground, or I could go to the Air Force and be in the air. So he makes a career choice to go into the Air Force.
Okay.
Immediately gets deployed to the Philippines. So they're pulling out of Vietnam. This is 1972. Pulling out of Vietnam, and but they still need quick strike ability in the Pacific, theater or whatever it's called. And in the Philippines, an Air Force chaplain leads him to Christ. So so he gives his life to Jesus. Comes back, shares his faith with my mom. My mom goes to Christ. So they didn't grow up in a Christian home. So they're kind of like the first in our family line. But he was a B-52 navigator, and so basically they're always at these B-52 bases. So they eventually moved to Sacramento, California, which is where my oldest sister Susan was born, and so that was 76, I think. How old is she? 78. So then they moved to Bossier City, Louisiana. That's where my other sister's born, and so that's 1981. And they moved to Blytheville, Arkansas, and that's when I'm born, 1984. So I was born in Arkansas. So I'm like, yep, family's from Kentucky, born in Arkansas, not going good for me. We moved from there to Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
And so if you do like a dialect test on me, like what is your vocabulary, what is your accent? It's all jumbled up, but a lot of my accent and word choice comes from like central Nebraska. It's because of some formative years being in Omaha, and then from there we moved to San Antonio, Texas, and that kind of became almost like home base, so to speak. So we lived there for a few years. My dad got shipped off to Saudi Arabia for a whole year, and so like typically we moved every three to 4 years, but because of him being in Saudi Arabia, we couldn't go to a war zone, so we stayed in San Antonio longer. At that point, my oldest sister, this will tie back in, my oldest sister got pregnant while my dad was in Saudi Arabia while she was 17. And so, I'm a poor mom, because that year It's my sixth grade year. I get arrested for stealing.
Okay.
My
Sixth grade?
Yep.
Okay.
My sister gets pregnant.
Okay.
And my mom's dealing with all of this while my dad's across the world. And but that was formative in my life.
What did you steal?
I stole a pen. From a store called Eckerd's, and they
I know Eckerd's.
They put the full weight on me.
Over a pen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to go to court. The judge, I turned. So this happened in sixth grade. So this was seventh grade actually. That the stealing happened the summer after sixth grade. So in seventh grade, I finally go to court. I had just turned, I think, 13 years old. And so they're like, well, if he was 12, we would send him to juvenile hall for half a day. But because he's 13, if you want, we can trial him as an adult. And my mom said, yeah, throw the book at him. So because of my mom's permission, they tried me as an adult. And so I had to do 40 hours of community service and go to counseling once a month. And pay a big fine. And so a lot of my seventh grade year was my mom dropping me off to paint graffiti on walls with a bunch of like 40 to 50-year-old men who had been arrested for DWIs. And I'm just out there as a kid.
Yeah.
Painting graffiti. Like, what are you in for?
They should have given you the pen to fill in.
So, but it shaped my life a lot. So, so then my dad gets back from Saudi Arabia, and my sister has her son, my nephew. They ended up getting kind of like a shotgun wedding. They stay in San Antonio. We moved back to Bossier City, Louisiana. So my parents' second time, my first time, and so we're there for 2 years. But it's really at that point that for me, like I started getting really serious about my faith in Christ. And so my sister, my oldest sister who had the son was kind of like the rebellious child. My middle sister was the angel. She was the straight A student, never got in trouble. I don't think she ever did anything wrong. She was leading worship at our church. And so she's like, why don't you help me out? And so I started playing guitar in sixth grade. I was like, I'm going to be the next Kurt Cobain. So for me, like musical influence, you said, we talked about Silverchair earlier, but man, like I love, like Glycerine was the first song I learned to play. I think Santa Monica by Everclear was the second song I learned to play. Then I got into Nirvana, learned every Nirvana song that I could play. So I was playing guitar. My sister's like, you should play with us. So that, so I get a little distortion to the praise and worship. Yeah. But I got super serious about my faith, grew a ton. And then, my dad's like, I'd really like to get back to San Antonio, because I want to help out raising my grandson. And so I don't know how he does it, but basically he's able to get the Air Force to station him back in San Antonio. So we end up back there. That's where I finished high school. And then my parents retired there. One sister lives in San Antonio. The other lives in Austin, Texas. So kind of Texas has like this home base feel to it. So I finished up high school in San Antonio, continued like that kind of spark that happened when I was in Louisiana in middle school, continued into high school with my faith. And so there's a guy named Rob Shelton, who's my youth minister, and he took me under his wing, discipled me, and was one of the most formative people in my life. And so if you're like, Jeff, who are like the heroes of your faith? Like my sister Jana was one of them. Rob was the second. And my senior year, I feel like I'm going all over the place, but my senior year, I was like, man, I feel called to ministry. And so this is my senior years when 9/11 happened. So like, it was like it was in September right after 9/11. But I was talking to my youth minister. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to go into ministry. And so he and my pastor kind of smiled, and they said, we've known this for a while. We've been waiting for you to figure it out. And so my senior year, I was like, okay, so like I probably should go to get a Bible degree at some Bible college, because I'm going to go into ministry. And God just really was tugging on my heart not to go to a Bible college, which everyone was confused by, because everyone's like, well, you're not going to, if you go to a secular school, you're not going to go into ministry. This is just kind of a flash in the pan type thing. But I was like, no, I'm going. So I went to Texas Tech University, which is in the middle of like West Texas, kind of flat plains. Okay. But went knowing that I was going to go into ministry. So like, it wasn't like, I wasn't half in, half out. I knew that I was going to go there. And met a guy named Dusty, and so he discipled me a ton, kind of like the next Rob Shelton to my life. And but really with him, I would say like knowing him and meeting with him, I probably grew more in my faith in 4 years of college than any of my friends did who went and got Bible degrees. So I feel like it was a great thing.
Yeah.
But so back to where am I from dialect. If you like, do you remember like probably 10 years ago, the New York Times had a test you could take for dialect. So you could Google dialect test New York Times. And
I'm going to do it.
And it asks you like, do you say crawdad or crawfish? Do you say semi-truck or 18-wheeler? Do you say catty corner or a cross? Do you like, it has all these
interesting
things. And so it kind of, so then like the way you answer things, it picks up.
Okay.
And so my dialect is, a lot of it's, so it zeroes in on Lincoln, Nebraska, but kind of near Omaha, Lubbock, Texas, and then Lexington, Kentucky, that's like my third. So the first was Lincoln, second was Lubbock, third was Lexington. So they think like parents are from Eastern Kentucky, formative years in Nebraska, and then some other formative years in Texas. So that's why I talk the way I talk.
That's, you know what? What's that test again?
It's like a dialect test from the New York Times.
We'll have to look that up. Although, because Brian's from the Northeast though. Well, that's right. Cause you're just from the Northeast and you have all kinds of crazy words up there. Like, so that test wouldn't work for you, but it would work for me. Cause you lived in one place. Cause mine would be.
So probably zero in on it. Like, so
yeah.
Like my wife is from Georgia, but it like is zeroed on her in like Birmingham, Alabama. You know, it's like, but it's like, there's a lot of similarities between, you know, in the South.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to take that because I grew up all over the Midwest.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can hear my accent come out. Occasionally I'll be like, oh my gosh. And then someone will look at me and be like, whoa, what was that? And I'm like, well, it's that, it got me.
Yeah.
And then, or I'll be like, hey, do you have a bag for that? And they'll be like, a what? And I'm like, a bag?
Is that weird?
I guess. How do you say it, Brian? Oh, I said it fine that time? Because apparently sometimes I say it okay.
Yeah.
And Brian would be like, oh, you got that one right. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then sometimes I say it incorrectly, but what? Oh, bagel? Did I say that wrong that time?
So
did you hear it on that one?
I don't know. So from college, from Texas Tech, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, to get my master's in divinity. And there I had roommates from Alabama, from Minnesota. And that's where the accent thing, because my Minnesota roommates, they're like, well, you guys from the South, you say Ben, the name, and where have you been? You say it the same. And I'm like, how do you say it? Like, well, it's Ben and Ben. And I'm like, you just said the same. He's like, no, it's different. There's Ben and there's Ben. And I'm like, what?
What?
But they would say things like, oh, you know, like the Midwestern type accent.
It happens.
So Louisville, Kentucky for 2 years. I got a master's in divinity there. My degree in college was marketing. And, and so a little bit of and I sold cars in seminary. So that kind of gave me some, put that marketing degree into practice for 2 years. Then I moved to Covington, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta.
Okay.
It's just crazy. It's like the Hollywood of the South. So it's 30 minutes east of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, General Sherman, when he marched through Georgia and burned everything to the ground, he spared 2 towns. He spared Madison, Georgia, and Covington, Georgia. So the town is historically preserved. So when you're driving down the main drag, which is called Floyd Street, all the antebellum homes, you know, from like homes that literally you can go to the basement and see where the Underground Railroad was being used to help slaves escape the South. Like, it's cool stuff. But all these things have been filmed there. So like when I interviewed, that's when my first job was at First Baptist Covington, Georgia. And when I went to interview, it was Duke Days. So Duke Days is all the Dukes of Hazzard cars, like the General Lee, the tow truck, the cop car. It turns out Dukes of Hazzard started in Covington, Georgia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so the youth building where I was a youth minister at was one of the primary characters, a guy named Cooter. Like that was Cooter's garage, was like where our youth building was. But then there was this show from the 80s called In the Heat of the Night. Yeah. And so like O.J. Simpson was on that show. And it's like, so In the Heat of the Night was filmed there. But then there's like, okay, well then the movie Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington, a lot of it was filmed there. So the scene where the guy gets hit on the square in his Camaro, like that was on the town square. My Cousin Vinny was filmed there. And so like the courthouse, like the classic courthouse, that's Covington, Georgia. One of the Friday the 13th was filmed there with Jason. And then randomly Rob Zombie got into movie production and redid the Halloweens.
Oh, that's right.
And so he filmed in
Okay.
Covington. And then there's this show that I watched because of like the nostalgia of it being in that town.
Yeah.
Not because I was like a super fan,
Uh-huh.
but then it got released on Netflix recently and like gained all this popularity. It was a show called The Vampire Diaries
Oh, okay.
was filmed there. So like it was all Covington, and then a Netflix show called Sweet Magnolias was filmed there.
Yep.
The movie Selma, like the Methodist Church in the movie
Yeah.
Selma was there. Like, so it's just like
Wow.
always, but so moved there, and that's where I met Lucy, my wife.
Oh, nice.
And so she was working on a cruise ship, as a kids director, and never wanted to be back in Georgia. She came home, and we met, and then she was dating someone, had to get to break up with that guy. But so get married, and then we moved back to San Antonio. So that's my third time living in San Antonio. Lived there for 5 years. You're getting a ton of information, by the way.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
But there for 5 years as a youth minister at a church. And so basically my youth minister left the church he was at to become like a headmaster of a classical school. The church that we were at went through a split. And if you grew up with parents in ministry, you probably know that sometimes stuff can get messy.
A lot of times.
So a lot of people moved to a new church. And so these people from the church I grew up in are at this new church, and they need a youth minister. And they're like, we need someone like Rob. And so they started thinking through like, who are the students under him that are now in ministry? And they came out to Georgia, and they're like, would you move back to Texas? I told them no a bunch of times. And man, this might be conversation for later, but in Georgia, I was tanked, like depressed, in counseling, and just, it was bad. I was burned out. And so a mentor was like, hey, you can only lead from a position of emptiness for so long before you're doing a disservice to those God's called you to lead. He's like, I think God might be calling you away. Cause I didn't want to leave. I was like, no, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to be the guy who's only at a church for a few years. I want to be there forever. And, through some counsel, ended up moving to San Antonio because of that. So San Antonio for 5 years, thought that would be the long haul. It's like this is where my family's from. Lucy got a good job. I was getting like, that church really took care of its staff. So I was like, man, I'm doing better than I ever thought I would. And had a great friend group. And so really thought like, this is it. Like we're going to be in San Antonio the rest of our lives. And then I was at a men's retreat, and a couple of different guys came up, and they're like, hey, we really feel like God's telling us that we should tell you it's time for you to lead a church. And I was like, what? I was like, that's like, when one guy says it, you're kind of like, cool. When two people say it, you're going, what's going on here? When a third person comes up and says it, you're going,
Yeah, for sure.
maybe there's something here. And so I got home and told Lucy, and I was like, a couple of different guys that aren't connected to each other, both all spoke into my life saying they think I should be leading a church. And so my pastor had told me, he's like, hey, if you ever feel called that way, he's like, you don't have to hide it from me. He's like, I believe in you. He's like, I'd love to walk with you. So I went and told him, and he goes, hey, if you feel called to that, like, I want to be in your corner. I want to help you get there. He's like, it'll probably take 2 years. He goes, because a lot of times you interview with the church, you get to the final 2 or 3, that it all falls apart. And then it's like, and that whole process took 6 months, and then you start over. He's like, so just be patient. So we sat down. I was like, if we could live anywhere, where would we live? And so when I was in Georgia, tanked, depressed, I would drive up to a place called Ducktown, Tennessee, to get away. It was like right on the Coe River. There was mountain biking, rafting, fishing. Like I was just like, that was my escape. So I was like, man, I would love to live in the mountains of Tennessee. And so basically I was like, okay, if God calls us to Stillwater, Oklahoma, I'll go. I won't like it, but I'm going to go wherever he sends me. But man, if we could find a place in Tennessee, that'd be awesome. So the first job I saw listed was Johnson City, Tennessee. And I was like, Mountains of Tennessee. Applied, and thinking like, this is my first time applying to a church. My resume doesn't look good. Like, this is probably a shot in the dark, and it all worked out. And so we were like, how'd you get to Tennessee? Literally, it's the first job I applied to. They, for some reason, hired a 31-year-old guy who had no experience leading a church. So we moved out here in 2015, and so now we've been here. And so the longest I've ever lived somewhere for one period of time was 5 years until here.
Yeah,
so
until
we've been
now.
here. We've been here 10 and a half years. So we've more than doubled anywhere else I've ever lived. So I'm 42. So basically, like, I've lived a fourth of my life here.
Yeah.
which is crazy. So,
Yeah.
so in San Antonio, we had 2 kids. We had Ruthie and Whit while we were in San Antonio. So they're both born in Texas. And then Bentley, Lucy was pregnant with Bentley when we moved here. So we moved, and we got here in August, and she gave birth in October. So so however many months that like she was really
just a few months.
She was really pregnant when we moved.
Yeah.
So
really fun time to move and do all the things. So. Find a new doctor, all of that.
Yeah. So we got here, and the insurance was like, no doctor is going to take you this far along. So you're just going to have to go to the ER. And I'm like, she's like, this is awesome. This is great. Thankfully, a doctor took us in. So
we're doing it. This is it. Yeah. That's really cool though.
It's a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But it's kind of
so
from pre-birth to birth to how I got to Tennessee.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a good story. So unpack Georgia a little bit then, and what you were going through. Why were you so burned out? Like that was the beginning of everything, right? Towards your ministry, would you say?
It was my first job ever in a church full-time ministry. And so,
okay. And you were just pouring out too much? Were
so
you?
I think you kind of like, so in college and seminary, like I led worship, I led Bible studies, and I discipled people. And so I just kind of thought, this is what ministry is like. And so, and wouldn't it be cool if you got paid to do those things? Mm-hmm. And so I think I had this kind of romanticized view of what ministry would be. And then when I started working in a church, it's like, oh, there's a lot of other things that you have to do. The church is super old. So I want to say, I think it was founded in 1826. So people are like, oh, my church is really old. It's 50 years old. I'm like, try 200 years old.
Yeah.
And so the church is really old, deeply steeped in tradition, to the point like the church almost divided because they wanted to put screens up on the, like, instead of hymnals. And they're like, well, you can't not do hymnals. I know, I'm horrible at reading hymnals. I get lost. Have you ever sung out of a hymnal? Mm-hmm. I'm horrible at it.
It's not great.
I'm like, where are we?
Yeah.
It doesn't flow like just reading a lyric sheet. But basically, I was working way too much, and so like I inherited a bunch of stuff. So the expectation was every minister on staff should be in the office 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to be 9 to 5. But when you're doing youth ministry, which I did for 7 years, you don't hang out with youth when they're in school. Mm-hmm. So ministry is all happening outside of those school hours. So Monday I had to lead a prayer breakfast at a private school that was 40 minutes away. And so I left at 6 a.m. to go to that school. Mm-hmm. And so my work day on Monday started at 6 a.m. Then I'd get back to the office from 9 to 5. And then we did visitation every Monday, which so if someone visited us on Sunday, we went and visited them in their homes Monday evening and said, look, we'd love for you to join our church. So just in person, knocking on the door, visiting. And so visitation started at 6. So I'd start at 6 a.m., go to 5, go home, eat dinner, come back at 6. And then from 6 to 8, I'd be driving around town visiting people. So basically like Monday felt like 6 to 8 straight. Tuesday, just a normal 9 to 5 day, except for Tuesday evenings was always like when, middle school events happened. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to go to where my students were. So I'd go to their choir rehearsal concerts or their theater plays or their sporting events. And so like a lot of Tuesday evenings doing that. Mm-hmm. Wednesday, I did a prayer breakfast in town for the local schools that started at 7 a.m. So basically like 7 a.m., then 9 to 5. And then we had church dinner from 5 to 6 and then youth group from 6 to 8. And so that day went from 7 to 8.
Yeah.
I was also trying to finish up seminary. So at 8 o'clock, I'd finish up youth and I'd drive into Atlanta to find a 24-hour coffee shop and I'd study Hebrew for a couple hours. Thursday was a normal 9 to 5, except for Thursday afternoon was all the JV games. So any JV student that was doing sports during schools, I'd go to support them to go to their games. Friday I had to do another prayer breakfast for middle school students. Did that. Had most of Friday off, but then went to the varsity games Friday night. And then you do then you're supposed to do this 5th quarter thing. And so then Friday night you're doing a big youth activity thing. And so I feel like I was just always working while trying to finish up my seminary degree. And then Sundays were a full day as well. Yeah. And then on top of that, they're like, well, we need a pastor to be at the Old Lady Bible study on Monday at the golf course. And so you need our pastor representative. So I'd go I'd go to things that I'm like, why is the youth minister at the Old Lady Bible study? But, so I think I was going nonstop, and
Yeah.
and eventually just like I couldn't handle it, and so I crumbled, and I'd wake up and just stare at the ceiling and go, I can't do this today. I can't do this today. I can't do this today.
Yeah.
I'd take a shower, put on my good Christian face, It's like instead then I go fake it. Like I'm happy and I'm the joy of the Lord. But like internally I'm dying. And then I'd come home and I didn't have internet and I didn't have cable. And so I just like play like I think it was like Kazaa. Do you remember that? Like you had there
sounds familiar.
There was Napster that started like the streaming, and then Kazaa was kind of the next thing. But like, so I would just like, I just put on my Kazaa and listen to dark music.
Yeah.
And it'd be play like sad, depressing music in the background.
Like
and I'd fall asleep. Like there's a guy named Rocky Vodoleo. I don't know if he's like so just like the singer songwriter, minor keys, like everything's got an A minor, E minor in it to kind of make you feel nice.
Yeah, Dashboard Confessional.
yeah, like that. That'd be happy stuff,
Oh, okay.
Hands down, this is the best day. Yeah, that'd have been happy stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so then I fall asleep and do it again. And
Yeah.
so then eventually there was a guy at my church who could tell something was off. And he took me out to his farm and we went walking and he was asking some questions and he's like, he's like, it took you 26 years to get into this place. You're not going to get out of it just by willpower. You're probably going to need to see someone professionally. And so he encouraged me to go start processing things with the counselor. And so that kind of started that journey of figuring out some deeper stuff, but realizing also that just what I was doing wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, I think that's hard. I think a lot of believers these days feel that you have to live under the guise of always appearing to be okay. Because then it's like, if you're not okay, then personally it's like, okay, if I don't show everybody that I'm doing okay, then it's like I failed God because I'm really not doing okay, but I'm supposed to do okay because, and then you can just like get inside your own head and then just like, then everything just falls and then you're just like, dang it. And then you get too far gone. And then that's when people end up losing their faith completely because they're just like so turned off by it and they haven't spent any time to feed themselves or figure out how to do that because they're just afraid. They don't want to tell anybody the struggles that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people don't want to hear it. Some people would rather just like, I'd rather you just please look happy. And other people are like, this is a breath of fresh air. You too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But I'd rather I'd rather be an open book and let people know like I'm not doing okay versus trying like it's more exhausting to try to fake it than it is to let people know you're not doing 100% right now. So
yeah. And it's funny. One thing that you said this past Sunday that Brian and I have been trying to do every day is that when we wake up in the morning, so our day usually starts pretty early because we like to have just alone time before the boys wake up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're 4 and 5. So like, pray for us every day, please. Because they're just, I mean, we love them so much, but we need that time. So like we wake up and we'll have coffee and we do a devotional together. And then we just kind of like have that time. And then our boys will wake up early. So like 5:30, 6, like they're up. And so we've been trying to, though, ever since this past Sundays, we've been trying to get up and part of our prayer is to renew our hearts and renew our minds every day.
That's good.
And just to have grace for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we've tried to help our boys, like when we pray at night, to be like, okay, what's one thing you guys are thankful for today? And so to hear like their prayers and be like, God, help me with this. Or, sometimes they're little funny things because they're kids. Like, thank you today, Lord, for the rain. It was so much fun to make puddles. And it's like, there you go.
It's perfect.
That's it. That's all he wants. And so it's been really cool. So thank you for that for us, because that was big for us on Sunday. And I know it's a big one for Brian because Brian struggles with a lot of just talking to people in general, I think, right now. He's just not even talking. Hence why he's back there and I'm over here.
You're hosting.
But that's how we make it work. Brian's quiet. I'm the one that's not.
Yeah.
But God's funny. So, well, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that story about that. I mean, my goodness, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So then,
if you were here at the beginning of my time at Redeemer,
that's what I was just going to ask.
Like 2 years in, I preached through Job.
Okay.
And kind of got into mental health stuff. And I said, some people were like, "This is so refreshing," And there's this one old man that came up and he goes, "Well, that was dark." Then he just walked off.
Oh.
Well,
Have you seen him since?
well, it was a friend's dad who was in town, but it was just a funny, like, you could tell he was really uncomfortable
Yeah.
with that particular service about Job basically being like, "I wish I wasn't born." And so, but
well, it is refreshing though. So growing up in the church, I've been a part of every denomination possible, just because of my parents being involved in music and the long hours spent at church, just, showing up hours before anybody gets there. And then my brothers and I would just play or do whatever.
Yeah.
And then I ended up volunteering I wasn't even 10 yet before I was working in children's church, because I was like, what the heck am I going to do here?
Yeah.
With all this time, I'm going to do something. And so I started like working in children's church and like going through and all those things. And so it's very interesting to see church from different aspects and then to have my parents be involved in music. But I think that, we all go through something as our formative years, our 20s, things like that. And just, I was married in my 20s and I got divorced towards the end of my 20s. And it was, it shaped me to who I am today.
Yeah.
And I'd go through it again, but it was awful. Like it was just like, God bless him though, right? And like just going through different churches and going through a divorce also, like there's so many chances for the church to like come alongside me.
Yeah.
And it never happened. And it was just a big fail. And then I kept trying to find those churches. And then I was getting discouraged because I was like, my gosh, I grew up in the church. Like I need these people. I need people around me, but they're not coming because, shame with divorce or any of those things. And I ended up moving out west. I got a good job opportunity. And I was like, all right, this is God telling me to start over because I really was detrimental. And so I was in Florida at the time and I moved out to Portland and I was like, okay, I don't know anybody here. I literally moved sight unseen to Portland, Oregon. So I went from like sunshine to rain, but green. It was gorgeous, beautiful place. And then I was like trying to find churches and I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something new here. And I ended up finding a church called Door of Hope.
Okay.
And the pastor was like, he was covered in tattoos. He had a totally scattered past and he would get up there and he would just be like, I'm no better than you. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
And let's open up the Bibles and let's talk. And so it was like the first time as an adult that somebody had opened up the Bible and been candid and then been like, dude, I am so wounded too, but let's work through this together. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So then I met him after one of the sermons and he was like, oh, I'm going to counsel you. He's like, I know, I feel you. You don't even have to say anything. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like he could just read it all over me. And so he ended up counseling me. And it was so encouraging because I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Thank you, God. I found a church that like, I could feel God coming into my body again, every part. And so that was kind of like my rebirth, even though I grew up in the church and I, made the choice to get baptized and all those things. But like, it felt like the first time that it was my decision to like find a church and seek out that help. And then when I moved from Portland, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find a church like Door of Hope again. And so I continued to like tithe to that church and listen to their sermons religiously on Sundays. And then I introduced Brian because then we started dating and I was like, Brian, you got to check out this church. Cause like, I just kept trying to find, and my problem is that comparison, right?
Yeah.
So I kept trying to find my Door of Hope here on the East Coast and it just wasn't happening. And then that wasn't good either because I was missing out on fellowship because I was just listening online because that was my only choice. And I was like, there's got to be something. And so when we finally moved here, we were like, okay, we're going to be able to find a church here. This is the Bible Belt. Like we're going to be able to find some like-minded people. How many churches did we go to? I don't know. It was quite a few. We got here in October. So from October to December till we came to Redeemer, every Sunday we were at a different church. And we were like, oh, okay, is this one going to be it? Maybe this is going to be it. And then we would go, and then we were just like, oh, okay, that wasn't it. And then when we came to Redeemer, we were like, within like 5 or 10 minutes, I think Brian looked at me and he goes, this is the church. He was like, this is like Door of Hope, Leah.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like, this kind of feels like Door of Hope. I was like, but let's just chill. Let's just see how it is for a little bit. And so it's been really cool to have that feeling again, because we appreciate you so much for getting up there and just being that candid person, telling your stories, sharing where you've failed, sharing where you've had successes, opening up the Bible and just digging into it and just being like, hey, if you need help with this, talk to somebody, because there's so many of those misses all the time. And I think people are really hurting today. They've always been hurting, but we have so much coming at us constantly in 2026 that like people need an outlet. So we just, both Brian and I thank you.
I'm glad you guys are here. That's what I think about when you're describing your church in Portland. It reminded me of just the church I went to in seminary was not your typical seminarian church.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of it was a church that my seminary kind of frowned upon.
Yeah. Yep.
So doctrinally sound, but they were doing radical things. Like they created a music venue. And Louisville's a really unique town with music industry, and so there's they were producing songs and all the stuff. But the pastor he's like may we never speak of sin in the past tense. And so he's like, man, when I'm preaching, I don't want to be like, I used to struggle with, and everyone's like, oh, he's arrived. It's like we should be able to speak of our present struggle, not just. He's like, if you're preaching and all you ever do is talk about, well, I used to, and it's like now you've arrived. He's like, man, you're not helping anybody. People need to know that you're in it with them. And so it sounds like when you were talking about that guy, I was like, he sounds like he gets it. You know, not preaching from a position of like I've arrived and figured it out, but like, man, I'm with you and we're walking this journey together. And so that was an formative thing that I hope is evident that like, man, like I don't have it figured out, but because of God's grace, we can walk through this together. So.
What did Redeemer look like when you first started there?
So Redeemer was started in 2006 by Jim Fickley and John Fouché.
It was a living room, right? Living room church.
Yeah.
Or something?
So Jim and John. John Fouché was the lead pastor. Jim was the kind of the associate, but they're like two best buds. Jim was at a church in town that was kind of your typical mega church. And John was working at one of their campuses, a new campus in Kingsport, also kind of the mega church. So they're like, man, church has become, hey, Sunday, how do we do it as big and as big as possible? And then Monday was evaluate, how can we do it better? And then Tuesday through Thursday was just like, all right, let's get in place to do next Sunday better than we did it last Sunday. Then they were like, man, I feel like we're missing out on just life on life throughout the week. It's like Sunday's all about this. Church has become all about this Sunday centric performance, and how do we? And so their wives were like, what if you guys started a church? And so they started Redeemer in a living room, and then people started showing up. Like, man, we're kind of hungry for like that. Actually, this community of people who do life with each other, and then. It expanded to what used to be called the Trinity Art Center, which is behind Sam's Club. And it's like a venue where they have tap dancing classes and ballet and guitar lessons and drum lessons, which it's an art center. But they had a little primary meeting room. They started meeting in there until literally, I think the floor was bowing in when they got to about 70 people. It's like, this isn't meant to hold this many people. And then it grew to the King Center. So I think they moved to the King Center in 2012, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And so we've been there since then. And so,
wow.
But so when I got here, there's about 300 people at Redeemer. We did 2 services, about 100 in the first service, 200 in the second service. But that's kind of small, tight knit type church. But it wasn't built on a personality. And so it wasn't like, oh, this is John Fouché's church, or it was really like, man, like the people came because of relationships or friendships that they developed in the church. And so that's why I was able to come in seamlessly. A lot of times when a pastor leaves, the first person who comes in kind of lasts a year or two and they get chewed up, spit out. And then the third person that comes in is the one who actually sticks. And like, you don't really see the first person ever go well. And it's like, why did it work so well? And it's really because of the way that I was set up to come into a church that wasn't built off of, personality, but on community. So,
That's cool.
But Redeemer's always been a musical church. And so, and that's what that blows my mind is just the amount of musicians we have that continue to show up. I'm like, this is crazy. But that's kind of always been, and that's what Jim Fickley, he's still at Redeemer. He does our marriage ministry stuff now. He's one of the best pianists I've ever heard. And it's amazing. He's kind of a jack of all trades type guy. But so he does woodwork. He does counseling by trade. He's an incredible, phenomenal musician. He's got an album on Spotify. But then he's also was a football coach at one point. But I think his taste in music and desire to do that with excellence kind of set that tone. So I've always appreciated the music at Redeemer. So I always assume like people probably come because of the music. So,
well, that's usually the first thing that everybody judges though first, because I mean, that's what you hear first. And for us, like if it was, and everybody's got their flavor, right? Whatever works for people in terms of their church. But like if the thing that would turn Brian and I off is that if we would show up and it was a giant show and they had the smoke and all the things, and it's just like, okay, then it becomes distracting for us too as musicians to be like, oh my gosh, I can't process and I can't get in, I can't do anything because it's like, it's distracting, the smoke, all the things. And I know that churches want so desperately for people to come to church, but I feel like if we just start stripping some of that stuff today, because there's no authenticity. Like when you do that and somebody walks in, they can tell that it's not authentic, And so I just feel like when you go there, it's like, oh my gosh. And so every church that we've tried to go to was a lot of that. But
it was because we're building, literally right next to where we're recording right now. And a lot of people are like, well, are you guys going to do a black box of the stage? And the answer is no. Like we're maintaining a singular surface, which makes Redeemer unique. Like there's not a stage. For sure. And people ask me like, and I'm like, I love it. And they're like, why? I go, because I don't preach above people. I'm with people. And so I just like that dynamic.
Yeah.
But also the fact that we're in a round is unique. And so some people that's a deterrent. So I understand like that some people are not going to come to Redeemer because they're like, that's just awkward. But other people go, man, this is something that's unique. But I was watching another church in town. I was watching one of their services, and the band was going, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And I was like, "We could do this." And the thought crossed my mind, like we have the ability to pull this off. And God just so gently, in the stillness of my heart, reminded me that like, if that's what people wanted, that church is in town, they would just go to that church. Just be Redeemer. And so I was like, you're right. Like we don't need like why would I even try to become something? Like why would we try to be what the other church is doing? Because truly, if that's what someone wanted, they would just go there. And so why would we try to recreate that? And so so we are who we are, but I so it's not for everybody. But I think it's unique, and I really appreciate the way that it was. So Redeemer as far as in the round. Singular surface. That's how I inherited it, and that's how it's going to stay. So in our new building, we're going to still be in the round. Still have no stage. And it was funny. I was doing like a meeting on the building, and people were asking questions, and I could tell like there was just tension in the room. You could feel it. And then someone asked, "Are we still going to do church in the round?" When I said yes, there was an audible just. And it's at that point, I think every other question seemed minor. It's like, okay, we're fine. Like we just because I think the people who are here appreciate the non-performance, the non-production style that we have, and so. But the truth is like, it doesn't reach everybody, but it reaches some, and in the same way that then therefore the church who does it different. Not going to reach everybody. They're going to reach some, and that's the beauty of the body of Christ. That's why I say, like, when it comes to churches, not any church in Johnson City is the kingdom of God. We're all unique expressions, and it really takes us all being put together to paint a bigger picture of what the church is. Yeah, and so I'm happy and thankful to play the part that we're supposed to play. So,
do you ever watch your own sermons?
No. Yeah. So I probably should to try to get better. Cause you can't really critique yourself, and know how to improve if you're not watching. It's like an athlete watching film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, but, so when I first got to Redeemer and became a lead pastor and was preaching, Dusty from college, who my mentor, became like my coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're part of an organization called Acts 29, who like assessed me and basically determined like whether or not I should be where we are. And they are like, he needs coaching, and which is true. I was 31, had never done this before. And so they said, man, we really want him to be with a coach who's at a church, that has a similar DNA, that's been where we are and is where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, there's not a lot of those churches, in the country, but there's one in Lubbock, Texas. And I was like, Dusty? And they're like, do you know him? I was like, yeah, he discipled me. And so it's like a crazy turn of events where like Dusty, like I reconnected with him, being in Tennessee with him. And so, but he asked me, he's like, how many hours a week do you spend preparing your sermon?
Mm-hmm.
And like a badge of honor, I was like 20, like kind of thinking he'd be really impressed. Like, man, you must really take this seriously. You know, like you put in the work. I wish more guys spent that much time. He goes, dude, that's too much time. And I was like, what? He goes, you got to get it down. He goes, imagine this. If we could get you to prepare a sermon in 12 hours, he goes, that would give you 8 hours to be with people. And he goes, I'm telling you, he's like, spending 8 hours with people in your church will go way further than 8 hours of wordsmithing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think my fear of watching my sermons is that I would then feel I'd probably start creeping in and spending more time trying to get better, and probably start bumping it. So it's almost so maybe this, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I think this is exposing why I don't want to. It's like, I don't want to feel the pressure to spend more time to get better at the expense of spending time with people that I should be spending time with. Yeah. And so I think I'm just fearful that if I watch it, I'm like, I need to get better. And then to get better, I'm gonna need to have more time. So where does that time come from? It's like, it would chip into other things that I think are important. So I guess I kind of like, I guess people get what they get. Don't throw a fit. type
How far ahead do you write your sermons?
So for instance, like today I finished, we're preaching through Matthew 16 this week. I finished the sermon at 11 o'clock this morning for Sunday. And so after this, I'll start looking at chapter 17, just looking at it. And then I'll really start writing on Monday morning for that. So I'll get a peek at it today, but then I won't start until Monday. Then I start Monday. And then I'll do a little bit on Monday, a little bit on Wednesday, and then finish on Thursday.
Okay. So you just kind of stay for that week. And then if something else pressing comes in, or if God's like, hey, you need to talk about this instead, you just take a little pivot.
Yeah. So most of the time I'm thick headed. So I just stick to what I have planned. So I've planned out like a sermon series for, like all the way through June right now. And so I typically stick to what I have planned, but if something really important comes up, then we'll pivot. So.
Yeah. Well, and that sometimes those curveballs can happen.
Yeah. So.
How, as a pastor, how do you feel about the use of AI? I know that's a big question, but I know that a lot of pastors use AI to help with their sermons or like things like that. But is that anything that you even?
So I don't want to. So I'll say that there's some friends I have that use ChatGPT like crazy, and to the point now where like when I get something from them, I'm like my first thought is, did you ChatGPT this?
Yeah.
If that's what people are thinking, I think you've overused it. But I know like our creative team will throw my sermon into AI, and it gives them like, hey, here are 10 clips that seem to be engaging, and it's really cut. So instead of them having to watch and try to pick, that really streamlines for them. So I'm like, that's a great tool. And so for instance, like, so what I'll do is my sermon, the way I write it is, I have a framework that's called hook, book, look, took. And I was taught this by a youth minister who said, if you can do this, you'll hold people's attention. So the hook is like, hey, you've got a minute and a half to grab people's attention and point the direction you're going. The book is like, then after you do that, get into scripture and just work through it verse by verse. And that way you're not making up a sermon and finding verses to fit. You're basically teaching what the Bible says. But after you work through that, like if you just do that, you've done a Bible study. But the look is like, man, tell me like, hey, what's the big idea? Like, what's the main thing you want them to get? Like, how does this apply to their lives? And then the took is like, man, what should you do with it? Like, like what is the application from this text? And so I sit down and I write hook. And then under that, I just say grab attention, build tension, and I move on. And I say book. And then I literally type out every verse. And I start writing commentary underneath each verse. Then I read a commentary and I start. And then as I'm doing that, like if an illustration pops in my head, I'll put like it as a placeholder, possible illustration, and I'll throw a story in there. And I think illustrations either help to explain something that's hard to understand, or they just give people a chance to breathe, because there's a lot of information and you don't want people to be like, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
So just give them a breather. And then once I've done that, I start thinking through like, okay, what can I combine? What verses fit together? What illustrations are going to stick? Which ones are going to get thrown away? And I start shortening it. And then I say, okay, so like, because I'm looking at this, what's the big idea that I want to get? I'll write that down. And then I'll think, okay, what's the takeaway? What's the application? And I'll write some thoughts on that, and I'll build that out. And so then what I've been doing is I'm taking that and I'm throwing it into ChatGPT, and I'm saying like, hey, this is 3,000 words. I'd really like it to be 2,500. What are suggestions for shortening up? And then I'll say, hey, here's my main point. Can you give me 5 suggestions that convey the same message but are punchy, memorable, and not cheesy? And so some people would hear that I did that, and you're going like, oh, I have a disagreement with that. Others would be like, that sounds smart. So I don't know if that answers the question, what's my stance on it, but that's just how I use it.
Yeah.
And so if that helps, like, so my stance is, man, I think it's a valuable tool that I've started to leverage in that way. And I don't feel any issue of like, does this reduce my credibility, or is this rob my sermon of any power? I think it's like, man, this is like think taking with some buddies, and just having that resource. So anyways, that's how I'm using it currently. And so to say that, like, I'm okay to that degree.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like, man, I had a mom of a college student, who I've never met, who doesn't live in our town, send me an email, like kind of blowing me up about something. And in regards to their son, and I was like, he's a grown man at this point. Like, he needs to be. And so I wrote an email, and then I looked at it, and so I took that and I threw it in ChatGPT. And I said, hey, could you take this email and give it more of a pastoral tone? Yeah. And it softened up some stuff. I was like, okay, I feel this is way better. Yeah. And so I'm using it to that degree, and I feel comfortable to that degree. But I wouldn't want to, like, I want it to be a I'm trying to think, like, I don't want it to be a crutch, but something that's like I don't have an analogy for it. So,
well, they say that's the best way to use AI anyways, is so you still use your brain, you still process and write all the things, and then you throw it into AI and say, okay, help me with this. Yeah. Because then you keep yourself in there. Otherwise, if you're just going to AI saying X, Y, and Z, do this, and then it plugs everything, then you lose. Then the robots take over, and then we're living in Terminator 2.
So I don't have the paid version of ChatGPT, and I've noticed that on the left it has like a search history. Yeah, and in good conscience, if anybody saw my search history, I'd be fine with it. Like, I wouldn't be worried. People are like, oh my gosh, like he's not even preaching anymore. He's just so
yeah. Ours is all just marketing. I mean, you went to school for marketing, but then we, as small business owners, use AI to help us with our marketing, because we don't have giant budgets for marketing that some of these big businesses do. And so that's what's AI has been really useful for us, is to like, okay, but now we can just pick your brain for marketing stuff. And
marketing has changed so much. I mean, so so I haven't studied marketing since 2006, and
it's a couple years.
Yeah, like, I don't think like web optimization stuff was even, like, search engine optimization was even a thing. Like, we didn't learn anything about that. We're like, we had the 4 Ps: price, place, product, and promotion.
Wow, like, you remembered it though.
Yeah,
there you go.
4 Ps of marketing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's fun.
So I want to back up a little bit.
Go for it.
Just so you talked about your own story
Uh-huh.
and how, married in your 20s, divorced, and how hard that was in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're saying that, like a thought that crossed my mind was like, man, because when I think about Redeemer, I'm like, I can tell you, like, there's people that have been at Redeemer that would feel totally different ways about how they experience Redeemer, and it made my heart sad, a little bit. It's like, man, because I think about, there's one particular couple where the husband cheated and left his wife, and it was bad, and the people surrounded her and loved her so well, and then this guy, they started dating, and gosh, I want to share the story about the other guy, but I'll give away too many details so people know what I'm talking about. So,
Okay.
but there's a really funny story with his second marriage. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And you're like, if there's ever a moment you're like, God's not smiling upon this, it's this. But like for instance, like the person doing the wedding dropped their iPad in a waterfall and then fell and broke their leg.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
So
Yeah.
I'll say, but then the woman, she fell in love, started dating this guy, and he had never experienced grace, and just like, and all of a sudden, like, he's like, this just feels, but the church, like, so we were part of the marriage. It was a beautiful ceremony, but for them, like, they're like, we've never experienced grace like this before, and he was shocked because he's like, as a divorced guy, I've never experienced grace, and I'm like, oh, like if everyone was loved that well and felt that way. So I know for them, they would look at Redeemer and be like, this is the best church in the world with how this happened. But there's another couple I'm working with right now. And so their marriage started going through some stuff. And so sometimes people want me. It's like, Jeff, will you meet with us? I'm like, do you want me or do you want help? Because I can give you me, but like, I'm not a professional. If you want help, let me get you to the best person possible. So we got them with a professional counselor attached to our church that focuses in on marriages, and so they were with them, and then the guy was meeting with another pastor, and so they had two significant relationships, and so after a year, it's not going to work out, and so she's served the divorce papers, and so I reached out and was like, I would love to meet and just hear your side of things, and she kind of scolded me and said, like, it's really sad that this is the first time I'm hearing from you. And it's like, I'm like, man, like, I can't meet, like, with the amount of pastoral care we have, I just can't meet with everybody. But that's the beauty of the body of Christ, is that there's other people. And so that couple was able to meet with, I think, two way better people than me ever. But for her, she was really hurt that she hadn't heard from me from till now. And so like, something like, she's going to walk away. And for her experience, like, man, Redeemer really let me down. It's like, So as you're sharing, I found my heart sad, because I as much as I love Redeemer and would love to just let me highlight this story and tell you Redeemer, and we're the Grace Church. I can also tell you, man, for every one of those, I can tell you, here's where we failed, and someone has a different experience of it. But as you're sharing that, I always wonder. I found myself going like, man, like, I'd love to brag on Redeemer. At the same time, like, I think for every time I can brag, I can also show you where we've dropped it. So.
But that's also important, because that's what makes the church what it is, because you can't please everybody, and you can't read what's going on in everyone's minds.
Yeah.
And your time is your time, and you can only do so much. And so, you have to also give yourself grace for those fails. And then at some point, maybe she'll give the church grace for that as well, because it just is what it is. Because at the end of the day, we're all sinners.
Yeah.
We all need help. We all need that grace, because we'll set ourselves up to fail too much if we just try and like put everything on this pedestal. And that's what happens with pastors though too, is that like, I think I told Brian, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I'm actually kind of nervous to sit with Jeff. And he was like, why? And I was like, I don't know, because he's like our pastor. And then we were talking about how unfair it is to do that to pastors, to put you on pedestals, because, I mean, you're exactly like we are.
Yeah.
But it's just because you are that face, and you are the middle, and you're the center of like the church that everybody sees every single week. And so it's easy to do that, because we tend to elevate those people that we look at and that we hear teachings from and things like that. And so it was just, it was
Yeah.
funny. And then I was like, gosh, I was like, and then we were like, it's no biggie. It's just Jeff.
Yeah,
We're just going to talk with him.
I want to be as relatable as possible. But at the same time, I do know James 3:1 says, "Not many should presume to be teachers because you're never going to be held." And that's what I think about. One of my mentors, a guy that I've looked up to and be like I've followed since 2003, but developed a relationship, friendship with about 5 years ago at a deeper level. Just 2 weeks ago, got caught in a 7-year affair, and it's really it damaged a lot of stuff. And so I'm at the same time, I'm like, man, like the weight of that fallout with his position, it has, and so at the same time, I don't want to be on a pedestal, but at the same time, like I think I do what I do, knowing that there's repercussions that have greater ripple effects in people's lives, especially when you stand and you're someone that someone looks to for spiritual guidance, especially as someone who's handling the Word of God. Like you want to not feel the pressure of being on a pedestal. You want to be as relatable and normal as possible. At the same time, but at the same time, like there is a level of greater accountability that I don't want to ever like pull away from that. Like, so it's a balance, I guess you could say. So, but I hope to be relatable, but at the same time, I do what I do with fear and trembling. So,
Have you ever noticed your dance and your cadence when you're preaching in the round?
So there was a guy at one point, he'd moved here from the Northeast from Massachusetts. And but he had PTSD.
Okay.
And the VA here apparently is really good.
Yeah.
And so he came here to kind of heal but he could care less what I said. He never listened. He was here, and he was like, you walk 13 times to the right and 7 times to the left. And I was like,
oh wow.
He was like counting.
Yeah. Interesting.
I'd never thought of it in my life until that day. And I was like, what do I do? So I know I don't notice my rhythm.
Well, and we notice your rhythm, and maybe other musicians like notice it, but that your musical past does that too. But it's very interesting. You have a total rhythm when you go around the room, and we know when you're going to shuffle and move. And I mean, Brian's shaking his head because he's like, "Yep," because we both will see it, and it's not distracting for us because we're able to still listen. But it's just really funny. We're like, "Oh, he's shifting and moving." Shifting. Oh, he's coming this way.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't think about rhythm much. But so when I was in college, I played more shows than I got. So I used to play guitar all the time.
I was just gonna ask.
And then I jacked up my pinky in 2015.
Okay.
It shattered, and you apparently have like 3 tendons in your pinky, and one of mine's ruptured. And so it gets stuck now. So so when I play, I can't like doing lead stuff. It doesn't bend.
How did you?
Playing basketball.
Oh, okay.
But so literally, but to that point, like I literally played guitar every day. But when I did acoustic shows, people like percussionists would be like, you do rhythmic things with the way you strum that actually adds a percussionist feel. And I don't realize that I do that, but it's like. But instead of just having rhythm patterns, I'm always trying to think through how can I do different things to kind of add texture to it. So I think it's built in my brain somehow.
Yeah. What kind of music did you play?
So I when I was in middle school, I wanted to be an alternative rock star, and but turns out that was not my calling in life.
Yeah.
But I got into singing songwriting in college and really found a lot of joy in that. So the way I described it is. Like I love to find a feeling that's seemingly inexplainable, and then finding words to capture it. And so I felt like singing songwriting was a way to take the way people feel that you're like, I don't know how to explain this, but then find the right words to capture that feeling. And I found great joy in that. So I found like kind of my niche in doing the singer songwriter thing. So
who's some of your favorite artists?
Music wise, like something that's like when I was younger, like I love guitar wise, like Hendrix was my favorite guy. Like he was really inspirational to me. And then if you're like, why Hendrix? It's literally because that's what Kurt Cobain said. And he was like the guy that I was like, so via Kurt Cobain got to Hendrix, but really like the Hendrix Experience album was something that I studied and really, really appreciated. But then when it comes to like writing style, like I did like kind of your dashboard confessional, like I think like his style of writing, but the John Butler trio was another guy that I found inspiration from. There's a band called Dispatch.
Okay.
So there's kind of some weird things, but or different people that I've found a lot of inspiration from. Like one of my, like the, gosh, I'm trying to think. Like kind of formative songwriting years. Finch was a band. I don't know if you remember Finch.
Yep. There we go. Brian's like, yes.
But Lost Prophets was another one that I Taking Back Sunday was a big one for me, brand new. And so that kind of era, like listening to those guys and what they wrote were some like our formative type artist.
Yeah.
So,
and some of that I can only listen to depending on the time of year too. Like
Yeah.
brand new, I can only listen to like in the fall, or Bayside, some of those bands. But Finch, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but musically, like I started playing guitar. Like I wanted to play drums, and like so in 5th grade, the band director from middle school came to our school and was like, "Does anybody want to be in band?" And he tested out, and I was like, "I'd like to play drums," and he put me through a rhythm thing, and he's like, "I think you should try baritone." And I was like, "Look, it's drums or bust for me, buddy."
Yeah. Did you get to try a bunch of different instruments?
Yeah, I played baritone for like 9 weeks, and I'm like, "This is the worst."
Yeah.
And so, but then I started playing guitar, and then I picked up drums on my own, and so I was like self-taught for drums. And so bass, I can play bass to the degree that I can play guitar. Like I don't like. There's a proper way to to hold it, and a different way you don't understand scales. But like got into electric guitar, and then my senior year of high school, I started a Bible study, and decided I was like, maybe we should do some worship, and playing worship with just a singular electric guitar wasn't the best thing. So I purchased an acoustic guitar, and then but so my acoustic guitar was greatly influenced from electric guitar. So if you ever see me play an acoustic, like people don't do the things I do. Like most acoustic players don't do the things I do, because like I take a style from electric, but play it on an acoustic, and so it's a different type of. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
no, it does, because that's how I would play my bass as well.
So,
I would just play my acoustic the exact same way, and I'd be like, I'm not gonna play this any differently. Yeah, because I always play electric, so I'm going to play the acoustic like an electric.
So I had a buddy that he got his master's in both electric and stand-up bass from Boston College.
Oh wow, stand-up bass too. That's cool.
But he played for the New Orleans Symphony.
Okay.
And then, but his wife was from San Antonio, and so eventually she's like, "We got to get home to parents with kids." It's like, and so he was a buddy, but like he was phenomenal at bass. And so when he started teaching me how to play bass properly, I was like, I don't know how to play bass at all. I was like, there's but then so his standard was a little bit higher than mine. So
do you still play at all?
Yeah,
minus the pinky.
So if like I'll sometimes, whenever like a guitarist is playing on Sunday for sound check, I'll go down there and play a little on it, and then like there's a couple guitars around the offices that I'll pick up and play. So but not nearly as much as I once did. So
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So you play bass?
Yeah.
All right. And Brian's drums?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a band. No, we don't. We what? Yeah. Our boys just love to play all the instruments. Brian's got an electric drum set up in the house, but Brian. So we both played in high school also, but I played the oboe. Okay. So you want to talk about random? Yeah. I played the oboe for several years, which is just I don't know why I chose that instrument. I loved playing it. It just kind of sounds, it's a rough duck dying kind of sound. Yeah. I chose that. And then I have two older brothers who are also musicians. Like my middle brother, Jeremiah, is like the best guitar player in the world. He's he's so crazy talented. He just came out with an entire album that he wrote, produced, played every single instrument on. And it's actually like our intro outro song for this podcast. Nice. Because I don't know. He's so good, and he still plays all the time. And then my oldest brother, Josh, sings, and he also plays guitar. So we did a band together, and our drummer wasn't related. And we have 2 albums that are still on iTunes, and like we did the whole music thing for a little while. But it's just not what God had planned for us either. And at the time it was hard because we were like all in. Like, we want to do this. And it just wasn't right for us. And people ask me all the time, like, oh my gosh, do you still play bass? Do you want to play bass? Blah, blah, blah. And my reply is always the same. Like, I just love playing with my brothers. Yeah. And so like, I'll play with my brothers all day long. We do a reunion tour or something, heck yes, sign me up for that. And then Brian will play drums. But it's just one of those things that I hold so dear with my brothers, music wise, that like I can't imagine playing with anybody else because I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. But
so I think for me, even though I don't play as much, like I think I kind of feel sad or sorry for Jerica because a lot of pastors won't have opinions. But like, so I'm like, I feel like these keys are really high. And can we maybe bring it down an octave for, or like, hey, could you like, so, but so on Mondays we sit down and I walk through the sermon where I'm at so far. And then she lets me kind of like add, thoughts to song selection. And I'm sure like she might hate that, but at the same time, I appreciate that.
Why not give it some input?
But, so Lucy, my wife, her brother-in-law is like phenomenal musician, songwriter, producer. And so like knowing him makes me feel like everything I've ever done was so bad, but and he's kind of how Lucy and I met. So he was, his wife, Lucy's sister, played basketball at Furman in Greenville. And so he moved out there, they got married young, but he was doing the singer-songwriter thing in Greenville, South Carolina. Got signed by Tooth and Nail.
Oh yeah.
And so,
oh my gosh.
So he moved out to Seattle to record that record. Did you ever know a band called Project 86? So that was one of my favorite bands. His artist representative was actually the guitarist for Project 86. But basically just his style didn't fit the label. And so it fell through the cracks.
What was his band's name or his name?
Corey Crowder. So it's a kind of Southern rock feel, but
I'm trying to think if it.
So he moves back to Georgia, kind of defeated, like a failed artist, and people are like, "Man, you should meet Corey. You guys be good friends." So we became friends. So I was actually friends with him, and then through him knew Lucy's sisters and her mom and dad and her uncle and her cousins before I ever knew her.
Oh, cool. Though that's fun.
But then, him and his wife Lainey were the ones that set Lucy and I up, and so that like that friendship was pivotal for our relationship. But then he decided he was writing Christian music, and it was some of the best I've ever heard in my life, and he wouldn't record it. And he's like, I just feel like God's too big. I feel like every time I do it, and I was like, dude, you should record it. Like, he wouldn't do it, and so he moved out to Nashville to give it one more go. And so he went dual. He signed with Sony as an artist, but with Capitol Records as a writer. And then Sony began to fold different arms of the label because it wasn't like everything was shifting with MP3s. And so the record label he was under folded. And so he wrote a song called Murica, not America, just Murica. And a guy named Kenny Rogers picked it up as a title track. And that kind of launched him into, because there's only like, people are like, I'm a writer. There's only about 300 unionized writers in Nashville. So that kind of threw him up to like the top 150 of that. And then he wrote a song called I'm Coming Over. And a guy named Chris Young picked it up and it went number one. And so then he had a number one hit. And then he had a second number one hit called Famous Friends with Chris Young and like this rapper guy. But then Florida Georgia Line, who's like a big band, basically picked him up and hired him away from Universal, and he became their primary artist like a guy like to find talent to record, produce. And then this crazy thing, Florida Georgia. Do you know who Florida Georgia Line is? So Florida Georgia Line, Tyler Hubbard is half of that group. He's the guy from Georgia. He started kind of getting serious in his faith again. And decided to reach out to Chris Tomlin. And so Chris Tomlin went out on the road with them. And so there's this video of them singing How Great Is Our God in front of like 50,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So there's Chris Tomlin on stage with Florida Georgia Line. But on that tour, Corey was with them writing. And so he became friends with Chris Tomlin too. And so Corey recorded there's an album called Tomlin and Friends where Chris Tomlin works with a bunch of different country artists to do Christian songs. Corey recorded and produced the whole album, but he wrote like 6 of the songs. And so at one point he had the number one Christian album, the number one Christian song, which was Tomlin with Lady A, and then the number one country song, Famous Friends, all in the same month.
Wow.
So it was like, the crate. So
Yeah.
when I hang out with him and hear the stuff he's doing, I'm like, I sucked so bad.
Yeah.
But he's like a top notch, like legit dude. And
Yeah.
so producing is hard. You're talking about your brother. Like I had an inbox and Pro Tools, and I would try to. I had some stuff on MySpace.
Yeah.
but
MySpace. Yes.
but like man, it's one thing to have it sound right in a room. It's another thing to recreate that and have it to sound that way audio wise.
Yeah. Yeah. He's our go-to for any kinds of questions because music is just his.
Yeah.
He just understands all of it. And whenever I would play a show with him, he was always the one. Like if I struck a wrong chord or something, I would be like, oh, and I would look over and I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And then I would keep playing. And then he'd be like, after the show, he'd give me pointers and he'd be like, all right, here you go. And I'd be like, all right, sweet. Cause I just like only wanted to like please my brother and make sure that I played the song well because he had wrote everything that we were playing, you know? And it's just so funny. He wasn't a slave driver or anything, but it was just like, you know, I just loved my brother and both of them and looked up to them so much that I wanted to play as best as I possibly could for their music. Cause I mean, I was playing their music. I was just hanging out, you know, but it's, that's funny. So yeah, Golden Vanity was our band name.
All right.
And then his band name is Fight for the Users. I don't know if you remember Tron from the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like a famous line that Tron says, like, I fight for the users.
Okay.
Because there's users and programs in Tron. And so, yeah.
Got it.
So I know. It's a Tron. It's an old 80s nod. He's a little bit older than we are. But can we pause for a second so I go to the bathroom? Well, I was going to say, like, we should get him one of my brother's songs, but I feel like that sounds so weird to like say, you know, like get him a demo.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the how protective people are in the music industry of like not like wanting people to know they're in the music industry. So like for instance, we're at Thanksgiving, he had two buddies over, and so one is a guy who's the lead guy for a band called 1,000 Horses.
Okay.
And the other one was this guy I've never met before, and his name is Preston. And so we're hanging out, shooting the breeze, like kind of developed a little bit of a like, I like this guy. And so he started like, you know, liking stuff on Instagram, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Then turns out his band's called Low Cash.
Okay.
They've got multiple number one hits, like halftime NFL show type. And I was like, had no clue that. So I don't really listen to country music, but it turns out like a big deal. And I think like they're always the amount of people that are always trying to get like, hey, could you?
I know.
Like,
so I don't listen to country either. Brian used to listen to a lot of country though, which is very surprising.
Yeah.
Like if there's a country song that comes on, he'll like know a lot of the lyrics. If it's older, none if it's newer. So what do you listen to these days? What's your go-to?
So
or are you like a podcast person over?
Yeah.
Music?
So I got into running during COVID, and then I kind of got into distance running. I don't look it, and I'm not built for it, but I enjoy it. And so the amount of time I'm like on the road, just running is a lot. And so I mostly listen to podcasts, but every now and again, like so typically the music I listen to is like throwback stuff.
Okay.
And so I'll get on a kick where where I'll think about. So randomly I decided. This kind of you might think this is ridiculous, but I listened to this interview with the lead singer from Papa Roach, and how he just gave his life to Christ, and so I started listening to Papa Roach again. so I was like play a song. So I've been listening, but then like at one when Chester from Linkin Park took his life, like I got on a Linkin Park kick and like listened to Linkin Park. So like sometimes I'll just go back to eras of my past and listen to stuff.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not really discovering a lot of new music as much as I'm just enjoying things from the past. So it kind of depends. Like what like Finch like recently was back on there. There was a time where I went back to Jimmy Eat World. Like it's just so it's a a lot of nostalgia, I guess you could say.
A lot of those bands though, it was a complete album.
Yeah.
So you could just put it on and listen to the entire thing. Whereas now it's just the one hit. It's just 99, not even 99 cents on iTunes anymore, $1.18 or something. But now it's all about creating that one song that gets you to number one and that's it. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the album is. And so like back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was like a cohesive story. And you even put like your release in a certain spot on your CD. And like, it told a story. And now it doesn't, I feel like.
Band, Coheed and Cambria.
Oh, yeah.
I think like they're real big on the storytelling aspect.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. They come to mind. There's another one called The Deer Hunter.
I don't know that one.
They also like but they do like a lot of orchestra and different things. So they'll do like movements on their albums. It's very,
cool.
very different. But yeah, I think that's like missing in our music these days is that it is just one hit. And we end up reverting back a lot to, because we're same age as you. And we'll just kind of go back to some of those 90s and early 2000 bands. And we're just like, dang it, they just don't make music like this. What's the name of the Pandora? Jamie's Elsewhere. Is that we were training to this morning? We're still Pandora people.
All right. So you said training. So what are you guys training for?
Oh, well, no, just lifting weights.
Okay.
We just train. Yeah. We have a garage in our home gym in our garage.
All right. So like, what do you guys, are you just basic lifts, or are there types of lifts that you guys enjoy or?
We just do compound lifts just to focus. And I don't know. Our goal is to just try and be healthy. Yeah. And then we like our boys to see us working out, and then they'll come out and they'll work out with us too.
Yeah.
I say that very loosely because like they'll grab a pull-up bar and they'll be like, yeah, ooh. And we're like, yeah, do it. Because we like want them to like, see us train and realize how important it is. Yeah. Brian's the runner. Brian loves to run. So. I do not. If it's a short distance, sign me up. If it's long distance, I struggle so hard. I'm not built to run long distances. We've done some marathons together though, or halves, but
yeah. So I'm not like, God didn't build me for that. Yeah. So I'm working against nature. But so I like to, I lift weights 3 days a week and run 3 days a week is kind of my rhythm. But I got into CrossFit in like 2012. And that has a lot of Olympic lifts in it. It's like the clean and jerk, the snatch. And so I fell in love with those. So a lot of my lifting still incorporates like that. But you obviously you're doing back squats and deadlifts and stuff to kind of like for the overall strength. So I enjoy, but I found right now I've been doing I call it the old man split. So there's a guy in his 30s that's coming to my house twice a week. We get up at we get up at 4:45 to get it done.
Yeah.
But as like, so it's just a real basic, like there's you superset stuff. So it's like a superset of a lower body push, like a back squat or weighted lunges into an upper body pull. So like pull ups or rows. And then the next superset is a lower body hinge, like a deadlift or like a thrust, a hip thrust, and then into an upper body push, like bench press or shoulder press. It's like, and so we do like, and I'm like, this is what happens when you get old. You're just trying to not die and stay healthy.
You're just trying to stay limber. Yeah. All the mobility. We try and we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday of lifting. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays we'll do like walking or just trying to just like all of those things. And it's funny because we have, there's a giant hill. And so the chickens are at the bottom of the hill and then the house is at the top. And so like, we'll do that. We'll do hill runs and
nice.
Oh gosh, talk about just like getting the lactic acid moving after you've lifted. But it's just harder as you get older to try and stay limber. Got to do yoga and all the things.
So you guys have chickens. What there's like so one of my buddies has chickens and there's like a certain type of hawk that like will attack them.
Yeah, chicken hawk.
Do you guys have any issues with those?
No, I mean all birds of prey. We've had a lot more problems with falcons. Not here in Connecticut. We got our entire flock wiped out in like 2 hours from the ground and the air. Yeah. But we have roosters here, and so we think. I mean, the roosters. That's their job is to protect the ladies. Yeah. And alerting from danger and things. But we just lost 10 like a month ago to a raccoon that found the weakness on the coop. Yeah. And then, I mean, you just walk and you just open the door to a massacre because it's and they're cannibalistic. So they eat each other, it's kind of gross, but yeah, we've got chickens. It's fun. We enjoy it. Yeah. Fresh eggs. You can take those home with you.
I saw that.
Just make sure you wash them. A little bit of warm water. That's it. Okay. But they're free range.
And once you wash them, you have to put them in the refrigerator, right? So is it best just to keep them room temperature than just wash them before you break them?
Yeah. We don't keep any eggs in the fridge.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're good for baking, all that kind of. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you get it.
I eat eggs every day. My oldest daughter hates the smell though, so she like, and she's also really dramatic in life right now. So so I have to like sneak them.
Can you do hard boiled eggs?
Can I?
Then you can just you don't have to cook them.
No, I like. I go on different like kicks on eggs. Like sometimes I want them over easy. Sometimes I like them scrambled, but hard boiled is not on my list of like go to methods. I mean, I'll eat them, but I've never like craved a hard boiled egg.
Yeah. Oh, I just want that hard boiled egg. I've also never cracked an egg like Rocky style and then drank it out of the glass raw. I don't know. You did that like a year or two ago. Brian's like, I'm going to do this and see what it's all about. And I was like, have fun. I am not doing that with you. And he literally cracked the egg in the cup and then drank it.
Can you crack an egg with one hand?
Crack it and then open it?
Yeah.
I've done it.
I see people do that on like restaurant shows and I've multiple years I've thought this is going to be my New Year's resolution. I'm going to learn to do this, and I've never done it.
Well,
it's a skill that I want to learn.
Do it with these, everyone. Maybe
I do the rhythm. I like tapped it like a certain way, then I got but everyone like, and then I crack.
Do you know if you crack an egg on a flat surface as opposed to the side, then it's supposed to minimize the amount of
shrapnel.
Yeah, that goes into the eggs. You know, when you crack the egg and you open it.
The more you learn. I know that.
It's not always true though, because that's what I tend to do is I'll do this and then I still get.
So, anyways, I appreciate the eggs.
The more you know, isn't that the thing with the rainbow coming over? Yeah, we'll do that.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for coming today.
Hopefully this was what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
So
we just learned more about you and your story. And if anybody wants to come visit Redeemer, can you just give a little Redeemer plug?
Yeah. So Redeemer, we meet currently downtown Johnson City at the King Center on the second floor. It's kind of like a underground church. You know, it's always amazing that people find us. You sneak up a stairwell and just descend upon this second floor venue. We're a younger church with great music, incredible people, and we typically open up the Bible and work through it verse by verse. And so, if you get mad about something that's said, it's more because of Jesus said it, not because of me. And but I think it's good for us to be convicted, and so so we try to let God's word convict us where we need to be convicted, encourage us where we need to encourage us, and to change our hearts where we need to be changed. And so that's what we're all about.
Cool. But, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging.
Yeah.
This episode is powered by OutPost Roasters, small batch, high quality coffee with soul. OutPost Roasters in Johnson City specializes in freshly roasted, small batch, ethically sourced, fair trade local coffee. That's what sets them apart from the big guys. They work directly with small farms and co-ops to ensure responsible practices and rich, balanced flavor in every single cup. Whether it's early mornings or late nights, their 12-ounce bags deliver bold, smooth coffee at a totally fair price. Head to outpostroastersjc.com to explore their blends and single origins. Outpost Roasters, coffee that's definitely worth waking up for.